Currently, we are continuing over with the Sefer halitim, Tzemach Tzedek, the Encyclopedia Chassidus, and we are doing the section of Umot, haOlam, the nations of the world. We're on page Tov Yud Zayin, which would be 517. Towards the bottom of the page, third paragraph on the page. Vizehu. And this is the meaning of what the Medrash says that the Jewish people say. L'chach, therefore, for this reason, b'charnucha, we, the Jewish people, have chosen you, Hashem, le'eleka, to be Hashem for us. Loimar, what this means to say is, Loi al derech. Ayin Dalid, the acronym stands for al derech. Not along the same way, not in the same idea of Ram al kol goyim chuli, that exalted above all nations, etc. There's a verse that says that Hashem is exalted above all nations. And that is the, so to say, one of the ways to interpret that verse or read that verse is the mistaken attitude of the nations of the world, that Hashem is above and beyond and higher than and not involved anymore in the creation, in all the nations of the world. He created it, he set it into motion, he put stars and constellations and angels and whatnot in charge, but he is above all that. That's the nations of the world's mistaken attitude. Ki'im, Chaf Aleph, acronym, Ki'im, rather, Mashe haOlam, haOlam, that which the nations of the world, Heim oivdim, they worship, Lakechavim, to the stars. Anu, we, however, say the Jewish people, Oivdim lecha, we worship you, Hashem. Shugamkin bechinas Elokim, that too is this aspect of Elokim, the Hainu meaning, lehoir, to illuminate, to shine, bivchinas or pnimi, in a fashion, in a way of an internal light. So we chose you, we said, to be an Eleka. So now he says, Veleka, Ve'Elokim, both of those words, Eleka and Elokim, which of course is the same root, and we only pronounce it Eleka, but really, as you can see, it's with a hey, but because it's Hashem's name, just as Elikim, so we avoid pronouncing it properly. So both of those words referring to Hashem, Eleka, as well as Elikim, L'shoin koyach v'yecholas hakoil. The literal meaning, the reason why Hashem is called Elikim or Eleka, why those are of his names, is because the literal translation of that word means mighty, or the one who is almighty, the one who can do all and everything. Zehu mishem havaya. So that really, the ability for him to be able to do all, everything and anything, that really comes from the tetragrammaton name of Hashem, Yud K Vav K, or as we refer to it as Havaya, by scrambling the order of the letters. Ki Havaya hu halikim chuli, because in fact, as the verse states, Havaya is in fact halikim. Not to make the mistake and think that there is the level of godliness, which is nature, which is creator, which is hidden and concealed and clothed within nature. And then you have the level of godliness, of the godly light, which is completely different, which transcends nature and is above and beyond nature, and we kind of make this split within Hashem himself. That is not so. That is incorrect. Really, even though we do have two names of Hashem, but in fact, Havaya is Elikim. It's all the same. That is the real truth. Vihu Inyan. Again, the acronym, Vihu Inyan. And this or that is the idea. And we quote a pasuk. Hashem, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, Minos Chelki V'choisi. Kanal, like we said above. Hashem is the share, is my portion. He is my lot, and he's my cup, as in the verse that says that my cup runneth over. So Hashem is my portion, like mentioned above. Kanal stands for Kanizkar Le'el, as mentioned above. Or another verse, V'hoya Havaya Li Le'Elokim, Kanal. This is a verse in Chumash where Yaakov Avinu, Jacob, where he's making the deal with Hashem as he's traveling. So he says that Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, will be for me Elokim. So he's using two different names of Hashem, and he's clearly stating that Havai will be for me Elokim, meaning the Jew has the ability to get to the point where we recognize and we live on a level that which appears to be Elikim, nature, Hashem being the creator of nature, Hashem being enclosed in nature, in fact, is really Havaya. And therefore, Havaya will be for me for Elikim. Anal, as mentioned above. V'lachein, and therefore, another verse. So what the Tzemach Tzedek is doing here is he's kind of bringing seemingly unrelated different verses and showing how really they're all bringing out the same point. And therefore, it says, Ani Hashem, I, says Hashem, am Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Oiker Leiv, who examines man's heart, Uvoichein Kiloyois, holy, and seeks or examines Kloyois. Now, Kloyois literally means kidneys. And throughout the verses, all over, in Tanakh, in Tehillim, a number of places, and then in the Talmud, and then in Chassidus. The term kloyos, which literally is the kidneys, is used as man's thought or man's decision-making. So apparently, just as we say the heart is the seat of man's emotions, it's not that our emotions are in the brain and the heart it just beats faster when a person has emotions. But we actually believe that the emotions are in the heart. It's not just a muscle that pumps blood, but really that's the seat of the emotions, just as the intellect is in the brain. So too, somehow, the kidneys are those which give man counsel. They're actually referred to in the Gemara as kloyos yoy atzois. It's actually based on the verse when you have by the various different sacrifices. So the parts that most pretty much all the time, all the karbanos, all the animal sacrifices, part of what you have to put on the altar and offer to Hashem and burn it up to Hashem are the kidneys. So they're called Eitzah or Kloyos Yoyatzois, which means counsel or advice. So somehow the kidneys have a relationship or are connected to man's decision making. and therefore it goes together with the heart in many verses. So it says leiv and kloyos. So usually, if you take a look at the translations, they don't even translate it as kidneys because that's too confusing. Because what in the world does a kidney have to do with anything? That seems to just be, part of the blood. I mean, so therefore they translate it as thoughts or something of that nature.
That's
So
really
the verse,
interesting.
yeah,
And it
so the verse,
separates. The kidneys separate. So I'm wondering if they think there's some kind of decision making going on in that organ because it's a purification organ. It has to make a decision on what to keep and what to waste.
maybe it says there's the two kidneys, the right and the left, correspond to the two attributes of netzach and hoid.
Interesting.
So that one place it says that those are the two kidneys.
Thank you for explaining that. That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, one of the 12 passages that every Jewish child is supposed to learn by heart. So it's from the Tanya. It says, "And behold, Hashem is standing over every person, and He is boichein. He is analyzing or investigating. Lo yois v'leiv." So there, every child knows that expression as well, which means the kidneys and the heart.
Mm.
So the verse says, "I am Hashem," using the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, that seeks or investigates the heart and the thoughts. Ve'ein Adam, and then the Talmud says that there's no such thing as a person noikeif etzba'oi that stubs his finger or toe, chulu, etc. And the etc. is if it wasn't decreed so on high in the heavenly court. There's no such thing as anything happening without Hashem predetermining that. So even the simplest thing of a person just stubbing their toe. Shemekablim nishomes Yisrael, that the Jewish souls receive hashpoas hachayus elikus, the flow of the godly life energy, v'hahashkacha pratis, and the very specific divine providence of every single detail. Akol mishem havaya atzmai. So for the Jews, at least, it's all from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei itself. Even the most natural of things, such as a person's thoughts or a person stubbing their toe or what have you. So the Jew receives from the name Yud Kei Vav Kei. Loy al yedei memutza chuli, not through an intermediate. Unlike, or here it means like the nations of the world say, meaning not like the nations of the world say, that Hashem is the God of gods. Meaning to say, they believe that there are stars or constellations or whatever which were granted power by the ultimate, by the King of all kings, by Hashem, the ultimate Hashem, and therefore it works through them. For the Jewish people, for the Jewish souls, it does not work like that, but we get it directly from Hashem. V'hu inyan, and this is the meaning of what the verse says, Es Hashem he'emarta. This is a verse in the book of Devarim, where it says that Moses is telling the Jewish people, you have hemarta Hashem, and Hashem hemarta you. Now that's an unusual word, hemarta. So what does it mean that you, the Jew, have hemarta Hashem? L'shein shevach miyuchad. It means a special praise. Ein kamoicha, that there's none like you. V'chanal, like we said, that's what's unique about the Jewish people, that they choose Hashem to be their one and only and direct source of every little, seemingly insignificant physical detail. And this goes back to the Midrash that we quoted a number of times about the king who comes to town with his entourage, and different people pick different governors or the duke or this officer, etc. And there was one pikeach, one smart person, who says, I choose the king because he's not exchanged. And that is, in the parable, the Jew, who chooses Hashem himself. All right, so that brings us to the next piece, the bottom two lines of this page. Hine ksiv. Behold, it is written, again quoting the same pasuk, Rom al kol goyim Hashem. Hashem is exalted above all the nations. Sheho'evdei kechavim, that the idolaters, those that worship the stars, mikablim receive, mitzad reimemus Hashem, because of the exaltedness, the highness of Hashem. That's how they receive their life. Because he's like, so to say, so far above and removed. V'hitnasusoi be'atzmusoi kaviyachol, and his being exalted in his essence state, not the way he manifestates himself, but his essence state, which is above and beyond, kaviyachol, which is a term that we use when we're saying something which can't mean that literally, but in our terminology, we have no other way of saying it or understanding it, so it means as it were, as if to say. Shehi, that is, mitzad atzmusoi umahusoi, from the aspect of Hashem's essence, core essence, Ram Venisa, he is above and exalted, higher than Migeder, next page, Almin, from being categorized even by the worlds, Elyonim v'Sachtoinim, the higher ones and the lower ones. He is beyond being able to be perceived or associated with any of the worlds, even the highest of the highs. Ve'ein lahem yichus, and none of the worlds, no matter how high and spiritual they are, none of the worlds have a relation, cannot compare the shaychus elav klal, and they have no association with him whatsoever. He is beyond everything, although he's the creator of all, and nothing exists outside of him. But as far as the perspective of us created entities, that there are worlds that he created, he is way above any of that, and none of the worlds can compare to him at all. The chalice covered all are worshiping the stars, the idolaters. Al Yisrael, over the Jews. They control over the Jews down here. Bizman HaGolus, in the time of exile. During exile, the nations of the world that worship stars are controlling the Jews. Or, as the Talmud says, Goyim mirakdim behecholoi chuli, that the non-Jews, the nations of the world, are dancing in Hashem's holy chamber, meaning in the place where the holy temple is supposed to stand. They destroyed it. And what's going on there now? They are dancing there. So that's like the biggest tragedy or atrocity, right? Or the biggest pain for a Jew to witness, that in that holiest place, that now, and that like the Talmud is saying that in context of look how far we are, or look how terrible and lowly we are in exile, that Hashem's holy chamber in this physical world down here, his home, now you have Goyim dancing there. Ki shemomis biyodayim titofes, v'hi beicholei melech. This is a verse that is quoted relatively often in Chassidus. Loosely, to translate or to explain the verse, it means a little insect, like a spider, that can be grabbed or taken with one's hands? And where is it in the chamber of the king? Meaning it's so insignificant and it plays no role. This little tiny spider in the corner of the chamber of the king in the palace. It's like it's non-existent. Yes, it's there and it exists, but it's like, who cares? Do you think the king really minds? You're not talking about his bed or his table or chair or the furniture or or any of the fixtures. You're talking about a little tiny, insignificant little insect in the corner of the room. In other words, the parable here is that nothing has any relevance or meaning for Hashem. And so too, allegorically speaking, all the worlds, as awesome, as an intensely high and holy as they may seem, the high worlds, the low worlds, the upper, doesn't matter. All the worlds that Hashem created, kula kilomamish chashivi, amei, kuchabrichu. All of it is considered as naught. It's literally as if it doesn't exist from his perspective in the presence of Hashem. All the worlds that he created, which from our perspective are just amazing, and if we have any glimpse or any inkling or any little understanding of something, it could, like, we just can go crazy from the intensity of the holiness, etc., etc., etc. For him, it's nothing. It's totally non-existent. He is beyond everything. And as is written, Kiniskav Shmoi Levadoi, that his name alone is exalted above. Rak, only, we're interjecting that word to the pasuk. Oidoi Viziv, or Vizivoi. His ray, Veharasoi Aleretz Shamayim, and his shining is on the earth and on the heavens. Meaning that which Hashem fills all the worlds and is, so to say, involved in making everything exist, for us to be able to understand what's really happening and how insignificant it is. So the verse tells us that his name is above everything, and it's merely a ray of his name that is in heavens and earth. And this is the meaning of what it says in the Zohar. Kad salik utshabrichu le'ela chuli. That when the Holy One, blessed be He, when Hashem, so to say, left to go up. What does that statement mean? What are we trying to say with that? That when Hashem left and went up, Shenistale kachayus, that the life force left mehaara, from this ray, lemaila, up. Where to? Levichinas atzmusay umahusay, to that aspect of his very essence, his core essence. It leaves all of whatever worlds, wherever we talk about, and it goes back to be included in the essence of Hashem. And then when that happens, the worlds do not mean anything. Literally, it means they don't take up any space, but not just physical space, but also conceptually, they are totally non-existent and completely irrelevant. The hanhagos ha'olamos, and the conduct of the worlds, the running of the worlds, The happenings, the making things happen, will be v'chinas sheina kaviyachol. So allegorically speaking, it's like a person who's asleep. Adam hayashen. So we're saying that's as if Hashem is asleep. Like when a person sleeps, shenistalik sichloi mei hakeli shu aguf. When a person sleeps, his intelligence, his rational mind, leaves the vessel, which is his body, his brain. And where does it go? He's not dead. Where does it go? To its source, to its root. Nishar, and all that remains in the person who's asleep, nothing remains of his intelligence. Ki'im, the acronym Chaf Aleph, Ki'im, just rather, Hoyach Adimioin, the imagination ability, the power of imagination, Shehu, that is, Rishimu, an impression, Chulu, etc. Meaning, when someone writes something and then they erase it, so there's a little impression left. So is it there? Is the writing there or not? It's not, but it was erased, but you still have the impression. So similarly, when a person is awake, there's certain things that he cannot imagine, because even though we have part of our brain has the ability to fantasize and imagine things, but there's a limit because we also have our rational part of our brain. So, for example, the Talmud says that a person cannot, it's humanly impossible to envision the elephant going through the eye of the needle. Because when you do that, like if, let's say it's a cartoon or something where they do all these crazy, things and give all these features. So either the elephant is shrinking as this humongous elephant is fitting through this tiny eye of a needle. So either the elephant is shrinking and going through it and like getting smaller and then it comes out bigger, or alternatively, the eye of the needle is growing. You can't have it both ways. It's impossible for our mind to envision an elephant as an elephant through the eye of the needle remaining the eye of the needle size. That's so long as you're awake and you have your rational mind. When the person goes to sleep and their intelligence leaves them, so now all that's left is the ability to imagine, and that's what our dreams are. So sometimes they make sense, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they are so wacky that we're like beyond shocked if we're whatever parts of the dreams that we do remember, and then we think, how in the world did I think that? How did I dream that? It seems so out of whack. It seems so extremely, extremely crazy. And that is because when one is asleep, the him, who is the creator and the only true existence and fills everything, when he removes himself, meaning that intense vitality that we can be aware of, especially in the higher worlds, when he takes that away and it goes to its source, similar to the person sleeping, what remains is a little impression, some residue, so to say. Just a little bit, and that's enough to keep the world, so to say, going, but totally irrelevant and meaningless from the perspective of Hashem. All right, that brings us to the middle of page Tov Kuf Yud Ches for next time.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Turen. I'll stop recording. Sure.